Do you want me to introduce you?
Oh, no, don't worry.
Hey, Snowy.
Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, hopefully I learn a lot.
How's it going, Earl?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing fine.
Yeah, awesome.
All right.
All right. Could you please bring out the PowerPoint? Over there. Yes.
Oh, but you probably got
you
to
just-
share. Oh, are you sharing the screen now?
Can you guys see my screen?
No, not yet.
Hold on.
Okay. Yes.
Get you set up here.
Share screen.
Let's do this one. No, I just like doing the screen.
Oh, I like to do the PowerPoint.
Easier that way, in case you have to switch the windows.
There you go.
Reading view. There we go.
Okay. Have you started recording?
Yeah.
please.
Recording and sharing.
Please just
Cut out all that stuff.
first
No,
bit.
I like all that. It makes it more authentic.
So for for Earl and Darwin who is not online, you might not have the handout. I can share the handouts after I go back. Okay. So this workshop is about how to write student learning outcomes. And we're going to talk about what is course learning outcome and how to write it and how to review if you have already those course learning outcomes. So why should we have course learning outcomes? First, it helps increase the consistency among different instructors and modes of learning, particularly for those courses taught by multiple instructors. We want to make sure that the students are having the same course learning outcomes, and they will be informed of the consistent standards and expectations in order to help them to learn effectively. And ideally, and we strongly recommend it, that the course learning outcomes should be included in your syllabus and perhaps in the rubric, so that you can better communicate with your students. Okay, here are the expected outcomes that you shall be able to demonstrate after completion of the course. And that will also serve as an implicit contract between the instructor and students, creating the mutual accountability. As far as you know, that at the end of the course, we will administer the course evaluation survey, which is a student evaluation of teaching and learning. And in that survey, we include a section of course learning outcomes, meaning your students will be asked how they perceive their learning of the course learning outcomes. So if you put these course learning outcomes on your syllabus and and explain it with your students, then they will be clear about what those outcome statements are. So when they get back to the course evaluation survey, they wouldn't find the language unclear or new to them. Does that make sense? So we do want to make sure that the course learning outcomes are clearly stated in the syllabus, and you as an instructor communicate the course learning outcomes, clarify the course learning outcomes with the students at the first week of each quarter. And the course learning outcomes also guide our faculty in the curriculum development and help them form the instructional activities and the methods. So that, for example, in the Canvas, right? You can put your course learning outcomes in your Canvas course, and each module, instructional modules, are well structured to align with the course learning outcomes. And your assignments and assessment tools are also aligned with these course learning outcomes. So students will be clearly informed of how this course is developed and what assignments they will do in order to show their mastery of the course learning outcomes. And also the course learning outcomes provide a framework for developing assessment to evaluate and improve student learnings, as we have just said. And it provides evidence of student learning for accreditation and other reporting purposes.
Mhm.
So what is course learning outcomes? Course learning outcomes are the statements that specify knowledge, skills, abilities, and attitudes, we say KSAA, that students will be able to possess and demonstrate upon the completion of a course. So in regards to this KSAA dimension specifically, knowledge refers to the theoretical and conceptual or practical understanding, usually refers to the facts and the elements. And the skills refers to technical proficiencies that can be applied to specific contexts. Abilities refers to the power or quality of being able to perform activities or tasks in the real world. And the attitude refers to the feelings and values or motivation of your discipline. So take auto collision, for example, knowing the parts of the auto body, that the body parts could be the knowledge, right? And knowing the characteristics of the parts is also considered as knowledge. The skills, for example, repairing the car, right? Repairing the damage or customizing the car is also falls under the dimension of skills. And for the ability, for example, if you want to, if you put these skills into into the practices, and that may develop your ability of improvising, or if you are customizing the car, that creativity is also considered as ability. And for the attitudes, during the learning process and during the practice, you may enjoy your effort, and you may learn how to respect or your clients, or show the cultural sensitivity to your clients. So that all falls under the dimension of attitudes. And generally, we have three kinds of learning outcomes. And we have institutional learning outcomes, program learning outcomes, and course learning outcomes. And in this chart, you can see institutional should inform the program, and the program learning outcomes informs the course learning outcomes. So that means when we are developing course learning outcomes with better, first is to align the outcomes with our program learning outcomes and institutional learning outcomes.
We're calling them here the college-wide learning outcomes?
Yes, at our mark, we call it college-wide learning outcomes, which is also the core abilities that currently is under revision. Okay, so I have the first activity for you guys. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, got it.
Click this, or hold it.
Oh,
or
yeah,
no,
thank you.
hold it in your hand.
Yeah. And so there are 6 learning outcomes to be here. I would like to invite you to read each of the statements and categorize what are the institutional level, or we say college-wide learning outcomes, what are program learning outcomes and what are the course learning outcomes. So the first two, students will be able to apply principles and strategies of purposeful, active and organized thinking. Students will be able to communicate clearly utilizing writing, speaking, visual, and other modes of communication. And third is students will be able to apply the fundamental principles of skin sciences to include, but not limit to, disease and disorders. Histology.
So
Histology.
I'm reading these ones. I think the red box is course learning outcomes.
Read all of them.
Read all of them first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Since
yeah.
course learning outcomes
I see the
under-
bottom one now looks like
Yeah.
course, because
Course,
it's more specific.
Exactly.
Yeah, the environmental pollutants affects toxicology. Toxicological.
Yeah. These course learning outcomes are developed under the umbrella of program learning outcomes and the bigger umbrella of the institutional learning outcomes. We can see the language is getting more and more specific when it goes to the course learning outcomes. So yes, the first two outcome statements are institutional level learning outcomes. And the third and the fourth statements are program learning outcomes that actually I took from, the first is from the aesthetic program, and second is from the environmental science program. And the last two are the course learning outcomes.
I thought it was easy. It was just down the line.
But you wouldn't know, right?
I don't know. I thought you were going to try to trick us, put them in a different order. Okay.
Any questions from our participants?
No, I understand that. That makes sense.
Great, thank you.
I actually didn't realize that I was muted. So I tried to answer the questions,
Oh,
but I was muted.
You're just over there talking to yourself.
yeah, please have your mic open. Okay, then how to craft or how to write the course learning outcomes, I'd like to borrow the theoretical framework from Bloom's taxonomy. So according to him, we have like 3 domains for learning: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. For the cognitive, it refers to intellectual skills and knowledge, and affective domains are related to learners' feelings, emotions, and attitudes, while the psychomotor domain is related to the students' motor skills and physical skills. Okay, this is overview of the cognitive domain, which is perhaps one that we are most familiar with. So under the cognitive domain, we have 6 levels of learning. At the bottom is the first level, which is also the lower level of learning. From remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So going up, that means the level of learning is going high and more complex. Okay, let me show, we have a recording from it.
Oh, click the Chrome at the bottom.
No.
Learning taxonomies are designed to describe there are many of them out there, but Bloom's is by far the most utilized. What you see here is actually Bloom's revised taxonomy. The original was developed by Benjamin Bloom in the 1950s. It was then revised in 2001
It's on another desktop.
The revised version really didn't change the original
Everyone, we'll get this sorted out here in a second.
This involved
Why is
changing
everything
the
moving
levels
so
of
slow?
learning from nouns to verbs. So you can see how knowledge becomes remembering and comprehension becomes understanding.
Oh, I get it. Okay, so hold on, wait.
Was that the top two levels
See this
of
real quick?
evaluation moved down one and synthesis, which became creating, moved to the top.
Oh.
One more thing to add is that there are actually two main domains of the revised Bloom's taxonomy. A cognitive domain and a knowledge domain.
Oh, it's over here.
Yeah.
Come over here.
Grab it.
Alright, hold on. Let's try
Cognitive domains that will
close
help
it.
us with developing.
and then let's you should be able to because it's already on the screen. It's just up in the corner. Do y'all know how to do this? Get it over.
No, I don't know how to do it, but I usually just go to.
You
Got
should
it.
be able to change the screen that you're sharing. So if you go back to share screen,
Oh, okay. Well, we're not going to be able to see it then, but if y'all want to see it, let's see here.
I see you turned it off.
Oh yeah. But here's the Mozilla. So can you all see here? Let me share the sound too. Can you all see the, oh no, look, see, they only see this since it's on the screen. Oh wait, I got an idea.
No, you should start, turn on the start video.
Which one? But I don't think they're gonna see the whole thing. Because they're only gonna see that little piece.
Bloom's taxonomy is a learning taxonomy,
It's
and
on- it's
learning
only this
taxonomies
little
are
sliver
designed
here.
to describe these
is it a
multiple
YouTube
levels of
link?
learning.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
many of them out there, but Bloom's is by
If you
far
guys
the most
want,
utilized.
it's like
What you see here is actually
I don't think
Bloom's
sharing privilege is so
revised
restricted to
taxonomy.
just you. If you want, you can put it in the chat and I can try to share it.
Okay, yeah.
Wait a minute. That's a good idea. Let me see if I can get the link easily. Hold on. Here. Copy link. Maybe I can just open it in
Chrome.
in Chrome, yeah. Let's just try Chrome.
Mhm.
That way. Chrome's already on this.
Bloom's taxonomy is
Thank you.
Just a second, let me make sure everything is shared. What's happening now? We can see each other. Oh, the mouse stopped working. Okay. This is why I like sharing the screen, because then we can just go here and then
Back and forth.
Can y'all see it now?
Is a learning taxonomy, and
Yeah, it looks
learning
like it's
taxonomies
there now.
are designed to describe these multiple levels of learning. There are many of them out there, but Bloom's is by far the most utilized. What you see here is actually Bloom's revised taxonomy. The original was developed by Benjamin Bloom in the 1950s. It was then revised in 2001 by one of his students, Lauren Anderson. The revised version really didn't change the original one conceptually. The main changes involve changing the levels of learning from nouns to verbs. So you can see how knowledge becomes remembering, and comprehension becomes understanding, and so on. Another change was that the top two levels were switched so that evaluation moved down one and synthesis, which became creating, moved to the top. One more thing to add is that there are actually two main domains of the revised Bloom's taxonomy, a cognitive domain and a knowledge domain. The focus is almost always on the cognitive domain, which is presented here. And it is the cognitive domain that will help us with developing learning outcomes. So, you may have noticed that the levels of learning in this pyramid have a hierarchical order, running from lower levels of learning towards the bottom, up through the higher or deeper levels of learning at the top. The idea is that these levels build upon one another, that as you go up the pyramid, the higher levels encompass the lower ones. This graphic helps illustrate that idea. So when learning something new, students start with remembering and understanding, and once they're able to do that, they can move on to applying, and then analyzing, and then finally evaluating and creating. I like this little graphic I found from Louisiana State University's Center for Academic Success, because for each level of learning, it gives a brief description of what happens at that level. So remember involves memorizing information verbatim, being able to remember, but not necessarily fully understanding the material. However, understand is to be able to restate it in your own words or to paraphrase or summarize or translate. I'll post this graphic in the weekly guide so that you can look through each level more closely. It can also be helpful, particularly when writing learning outcomes, to look through a list of verbs associated with each level of Bloom's taxonomy. This one was published by Lauren Anderson, one of Bloom's students.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So according to the video, you can see the lowest level remembering. It usually refers to the level of learning that students are expected to, for example, recognize, right? To list, to label the elements and facts of a knowledge. While understanding is about like full understanding, full comprehension of the concept of the theory, right? So students are expected to be able to explain, to clarify, to describe. And apply the facts and the rules, concepts, ideas into a context, and analyze is breaking down the information. So it requires students critical thinking skills, right? And analyze the issues or problems, and then go to the evaluating, judging, determining, or defending, and the creating is to make a new thing. Okay, yes, please. So, sorry. This is a more comprehensive picture showing the cognitive domains through 4 types of knowledge. So we have factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge. And you can see the squares on here. So for example, those action verbs, the list, summarize, list, recognize, recall, identify, which refers to remember, and these 4 verbs is corresponding to, can be used in different types of knowledge. For the factual knowledge, students are asked to list, right? For example, the elements of a human body, right? So something like that. So anyway, so this picture, I believe, is the best representation of how cognitive domain is intertwined with the knowledge dimension. And these are the popular action verbs that we can use with different levels of learning. For the affective domain, there are 4 levels: receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization. So what does it mean? Receiving, for example, if students are in the class listening to the class, that could be a receiving information, right? And then for them, after they receive the information from the peers, from the instructors, and the active participation could be the responding. For example, they may question, right? They may think through the information that they receive from the teacher or from the peers. Valuing is about sharing the information. So during the group discussion, students are, if the learners are sharing their the ideas, their conceptual thinking about the concept, then that could be considered as a valuing. And organization, once they have their own ideas, and that they may organize what they have and integrate this new idea into the existings. For example, if the students have learned a new ESCO standards, ESCO implication from the teacher, then accepting that ESCO standards could be considered as organization. And after accepting, if they want to display, right? If you are asking students to display that ESCO standards, then that can be considered as characterization, or we say internalize the value. So these are the respective action verbs that you can be used if you are developing the affective domain of learning outcomes. For the psychomotor domain, observing, imitating, practicing, adapting, this is more about the practice, like practicing the skills go over and over again. Perhaps this may apply to most of our tech programs. And here, next slide shows the action verb that you can use for the psychomotor domain.
Oh. Somehow with one click, you got rid of the PowerPoint. How did that even happen?
Sorry for the mistake.
No, it's okay. I'll cut all this stuff out later on the video. Since I'm going in to edit the beginning out.
This is my second activity. So with the content you are teaching in the class, I would like you to draft like 3 course learning outcomes.
It's here. It's no, just click. Yeah, it's animation.
Using the knowledge, skills, attitudes, ability dimensions, and Bloom's taxonomy that we have mentioned. Or you just grab some existing course learning outcomes that you have.
So, knowledge, skills, abilities, and attitudes. So we should use the cognitive domain, or it doesn't matter, affective?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Psychomatter, so psychomotor, okay.
Students will be able to
SWB
knowledge,
AT.
recognize something,
Bad.
identify. Students will be able to describe. Hey, Joy, I would like you, oh, not Joy, Earl, Mr. Joy.
Mr. Joy.
I would like you to go back and find the existing course learning outcomes in your syllabus. We can use that as examples to do our following activities.
Okay.
Thank you. It's my advisor. Her name is Joy. That was Joy. And you know what? I should wear my Joy sweater here. So Earl will be happy to see that. Yeah, I got sweater is like Joy, Y-J-O-Y here.
Oh, yeah.
The Christmas sweater?
No.
Seems like it would be a perfect Christmas
Yeah.
sweater, right?
That's kind of a Christmas word.
Ah. Yeah, but it's like a dark blue.
Oh. It's not Christmas.
I got it in Thailand.
Oh, just joy.
I'm having trouble knowing the difference between skills and abilities.
Yeah, lots of people have the difficulties.
So I'm trying to do this for my ESL grammar. Teach a grammar writing course. And so I've got knowledge. Students will be able to match infinitive verbs with the irregular past tense form. That seems like a knowledge, right?
Match.
Match, or is that
Well, I would say, yeah, label, list, match. That's remember.
oh, or maybe it would be distinguish in the understanding,
Sure.
right?
If you want to
Distinguishing
tell the
the-
differences,
right?
then you can do that.
Oh, I guess it would be like label.
Yes, my understanding, matching is like labeling.
Or identify, okay. So what do you think a skill would be for that course, for an ESL grammar course? It would be like, be able to make a sentence,
Using the verbs that you have
irregular
mentioned.
past tense.
Mhm.
Would that
To
be
make
under
simple.
creating? Or understanding? Because you said understanding, they could summarize, right? They're saying it in their own words. So if I give them,
That's understanding, yes.
okay, so what would abilities be then?
The ability refers to the
Like a flying?
feeling,
Ah,
oh, not
The-
feeling, that's attitude, sorry. That's the qualities of being able to do it.
oh yeah, here we go. Qualities of being able to perform.
Usually like,
So it'd be like maybe
can do this.
abilities would be like, I can do this, or knowledge is I know this. I got that. That's pretty easy to understand. Skills would be,
Like I can do it in the future,
mhm.
so I can,
Oh, and then abilities would be being able to do it now.
skill is like an, like specific skills, I can do it right now,
Mhm.
like.
So I'm trying to,
Specific context.
yeah.
And for the ability, it usually refers to the people's ability in doing something in the future.
Oh, okay. So I just had them flipped. Okay, skills is knowing how to do it. And then abilities is the ability to actually do it.
Skills is I can actually do it.
Abilities is in the future then? So it's like being able to perform, that's under abilities. Oh, this is proficiency. Okay, I got it. So what would be a good CLO for that grammar class? Grammar and writing. It's also a writing class, so
You ask about attitudes,
no, ability. I'm
Ability.
still
Oh.
trying to make an ability for
grammar.
grammar and writing.
Oh, grammar.
Let's see. It would be so easy for my, I also teach a tech literacy class, which I think would be similar to the other guys in here, where it's like you give them a certain task to do, right? Like, fix this part on the plane, or, edit this image somehow. But it gets a little bit trickier, I think, with the language.
Yes, it's always tricky when it comes to the language.
What would the attitude be then? I'll come back to that, but attitudes, students will be happy learning grammar.
How about they learn to use grammar on like
Maybe this is
the
where we
different-
can use the effective domain. Is that right? Under the attitude.
Yes, affected domain. So for different students, you students from different backgrounds,
Mhm.
so you may use different language.
So would I still use students will be able to, or is that one? Or that
Yeah,
the one?
students will be able to. That's a stand, always a stand.
Internalize?
Internalize is kind of vague.
Hmm.
Internalize
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out what they would internalize. The language.
I don't want to.
Oh, yeah. Let's keep it moving, keep it moving. Sorry.
So, okay, and could you just move on? So keep that course learning outcome that you have, okay, Earl and Alvin. And let's look at these reviewing standards or the guidelines. I'll explain one after another. So for the first one, align a CLO with the institutional level learning outcome and the program learning outcome, which is clear, right? Any questions for that?
We're good.
And the second one is to describe a course learning outcome that represents specific knowledge, a skill, and ability or attitude. Because we want one statement of one learning outcome statement to be observable and measurable. So you do not want to include too many things, too many skills in one statement. And third is to describe a course learning outcomes that can be assessed using a direct or indirect assessment method. Direct assessment method refers to the assignment, the exam, the projects, demonstration, performance, right? Those you can see students' performance directly. While indirect assessment refers to, for example, survey, student reflection journal, or teacher observation, or that is more about knowing students' performance indirectly. And then the next guidelines to favor precise action verbs over vague ones. So what are the precise, concrete action verbs? And what are the vague ones? Understanding. Okay, if you say students will be able to understand the theory of blah, 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 then understand is a vague, because are you expecting students just to clarify, to explain, to describe, right? So those are more specific and precise action verbs, so that measurable, more measurable, because you can develop assignments directly related to, for example, describe, right? Then you can design assignments such as like essay. Also, students will be able to learn something. Learn is a vague one, because learn, what is the outcome, right? What I would expect students to do. Okay, the next one is to limit the action verb to one per course learning outcomes. Generally, at Global Park, we prefer faculty to use one action verb per one outcome. But if it is kind of required by accreditation agency that they expect to see multiple action verbs in one outcome, then let's go for it. The reason that we prefer to use one action verb is they are more measurable, right? Clear. And third one is capture course, the KSAA dimension within a course. So if you have like 5 course learning outcomes, it is better to capture these different dimensions in all of your course learning outcomes. It is fine that you cannot capture capture all of them. If that's not your teaching goal, not your teaching objectives, but just we hope all you to aim to capture, okay, these dimensions. And third is to capture multiple levels of learning within a course. As we have mentioned, for example, for the cognitive domain, we have 6 levels of learning. We are expecting the course to cover more than 1 levels of learning. But if you have a strong opinion saying this course is an introductory course in my program, and I'm only asking students or expecting students to learn the basic framework, theories, concepts in this course, then that is fine to state only level 1 or level 2 course learning outcomes in terms of understanding and remembering, right? But generally, we hope that the faculty can include different levels of learning within a course that students are, based upon your teaching objectives, your teaching content. And last is to number the course learning outcomes between 4 and 6. That means, if possible, we would like you to summarize your course learning outcomes in 4 to 6 statements. Less than 4, more than 6 are not acceptable at Clover Park. Unless that is required by the accreditation agency. They want very clear stated course learning outcomes, like more than 10, more than 12. Okay, then we just have to go for it. Then you might have questions that have so many specific skills. And if you require me, each statement is to describe 1 specific skill, then I might have like 20 skills, right? Then what can we do? Well, in this way, I would suggest you to write like 4 to 6, a little bit general course learning outcomes, and use sub course learning outcomes to describe those skills, specific skills, because you can still group some specific skills in a way that you prefer. Any questions?
No, Snowy, I don't have any questions, but I do have to get back to class. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, thank you for letting me know. Okay, let's just move on.
See you later, Earl.
Okay, take it easy, you guys.
See you later. So here are some examples of the learning outcomes from the KSAA dimensions, and we have the institutional level learning outcomes, program learning outcomes, course learning outcome in this page. So for example, in the first one, students will understand first aid and safety related components. What is the issue with this one? As we just said, understand is a vague course learning outcome. So we want to avoid verbs that are not measurable, such as understand, know, learn, appreciate. The second, students will create and present a portfolio incorporating client treatment plan from inception and completion. And there are 2 action verbs. Thank you for pointing out. So yes, we want to avoid grouping multiple action verbs in 1 statement. Third one, students will demonstrate the ability to resolve blah, blah, blah. Okay, demonstrate. This is the issue that I constantly find as faculty have in their course learning outcomes. First, demonstrate is vague. Second, demonstrate the ability to resolve. Do you find it's too wordy? Right? Why not just say students will resolve problems? Right. So please avoid using wordy terms. And students will value diversity in team environments. This is quite general abstract, as you can see. And we want to avoid that. So for example, how to revise it? Students will display cultural sensitivity when working on teams with a diverse member.
Displaying cultural sensitivity.
These are the examples of at the course level, okay, course learning outcomes. The first one, explain the analytical framework used in the creation of environmental law and policy. What could be that issue? If your students read these course learning outcomes in the survey, the course evaluation survey, would they instantly understand or know what are the analytical frameworks? Right, so this is not clear because course learning outcomes, we want to communicate information clearly to your students. So it is better to clarify. Oh. Yeah. So you can see the examples in the good course learning outcome column. So spell out the 4 stereotypical frameworks as examples. Second, practice comprehensive reading skills of blah, 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 and ability to analyze the application of scientific method. Obviously, there are 2 outcomes, right? One is about reading skills, another is about analyzing. Third one, draw to 70% accuracy, blah, blah, blah. This statement sounds like a assignment, not outcome, because for outcome, we don't need to say 70% of accuracy. This is more about your grading. Last one. Okay, so there are a couple issues in the last course learning outcome statements. First, there's 3 action verbs. Second, it's too long. So if you still, but some of that you want to specify, okay, I want students to do this, selecting, operating, and calibrating, right? Then what you do? You can say, use the standards to do something, blah, 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 right? So in this way, you just kind of group these related skills in one course learning outcomes. Okay, last activity, we are using some course learning outcomes from our a new developed course from the digital entertainment design program, and Darwin is with us here. So I'm taking the original 6 course learning outcomes that Darwin developed for this new course, and I would like you to go through these 6 course learning outcomes, read it, try to identify the issues with these existing course learning outcomes, and think how to revise it. So first, read it. Second, identify the issue. And third, using the guidelines that I just provided to revise these course learning outcomes. After that, I would like to invite Darwin to tell us how he is going to address the issues that existed in these outcomes and how he would revise it.
And I think for time, let's just,
Okay, for time, you do not want to read by yourself? Try.
I'm I'm gonna be working as he's going.
Okay, Dalvin. Dalvin, are you here?
Yep, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. So,
Oh yeah, go
tell
ahead.
us what issue that you have identified and
I'm
how
sorry.
you're going to address
One more
them.
time.
What issues do you see in these course learning outcomes, and how are you going to address each of the issues?
Yeah, let me get it pulled up on my end too, because I actually have already started working on those revisions. Sorry, I just had it up and I lost it in a window. So give me 1 second. So I was fortunate enough, right, when I came up with these outcomes to be able to have these looked at and reviewed and get some good feedback. And so just looking at a couple of them, so there's a couple that have double, right, learning objectives. And so for example, number one, identify and articulate, right? Those are 2 learning outcomes in one. And so looking at that, I really had to sit down and think about what exactly I want the class to be able to do, based off of what we've talked about and what the class is designed for, which is to kind of be a specialty class that students will have the option to take instead of genre studies or possibly video and game design, or video and game design 5, right? Which so really wanting them to have understanding, right? Have the knowledge and the understanding of African American film history, and then be able to apply that in their own work, film work later on. And so when I looked at that CLO specifically and saw the double nature, can you put the, actually, you know what, I have it. And so seeing the identify and articulate, I realized really what I want them to be able to do is describe the historical evolution, right? Which falls under, so using Bloom's taxonomy, which is really comes down to understanding, right? Understanding the historical evolution. And so for me, with each one of these, after I wrote them out, so I used Bloom's taxonomy to write them out, but then after getting feedback and identifying the areas where there were dual CLOs, so for example, CLO 1, CLO 2, CLO 5, all had dual learning outcomes, really narrowing those down to be more specific, not just for myself, but also for students when they look at this, to get an understanding of what they're going to be doing and learning in the course. The last one was number 6. And I think you just talked about that, Snowy, with one of the other examples. It sounds more like an assignment, right? Prepare a research project that explores the relationship between African American film. And so for me, that the change there was to assess the relationship between African American film and American politics and culture, which totally removes that assignment-based kind of verbiage. But also when I look at what I want them to be able to do, assessing the relationship is really evaluating that relationship, right? And so it was really just being very intentional, again, using the course goals, but coupling that with the overall program goals and the institution goals. So really, exactly what you talked about doing throughout the course of this training is how I approached creating these CLOs. And Bloom's taxonomy really, really helped. When I was creating them, I literally had the verbs laid out in front of me.
That's what I'm doing right now. I got it right next to me, and I'm just like, what can I do instead of identify and articulate? Seems like describe, right?
Identify is the first
Oh, yeah.
level of
That's okay.
learning. However, articulate could be the second level of learning. So do you expect students to remember, or do you expect students to describe? There are 2 levels of learning. So think about it. based upon my understanding of these two words that you want to describe. So that means a full understanding of the revolution history, right?
And the evolution.
And so if you look, so I can tell you the way that I changed them all. So I changed number 1 to be describe the historical evolution of African American cinema, which falls into understanding. Number 2, I changed to examine the cultural expression and resistance used by filmmakers in African American cinema, which is application or applying. Number 3, to discuss the impact of African American cinema on cultural and political conversations. That goes under understanding. Describe, number 4, describe issues related to race, identity, and social justice in film. That's remembering. Describe, and number 5, describe key figures, movements in film and African American cinema. Also falls under the remember category. And then lastly, assess the relationship between African American film and American politics and culture, which is evaluating. If I was to reorder them, I would probably put 4 and 5 first, kind of going on like a hierarchy. 4 and 5, then 4 and 5, and then 3 and 1, followed by 2, and then 6, right? If it was kind of layered out. Because of my overall goal for the program is for students to, one, have the knowledge, right? Remember what African, significant moments in African American film history, but also have an understanding of how it impacted the world of cinema, and the relationship between the two based off of what was happening in the country at that time, right? In the different time periods that we discussed. And finally, by the end of the class, be able to really look at those things, look at African American films, and be able to have a direct correlation in understanding, and be able to apply or be able to understand or evaluate, right, how that tied into American politics and culture. And so it's the way the program is set up, the way that the weeks are set up is to kind of go through those steps, really in order of the way that Bloom's taxonomy has it set up. And that was very intentional. And that actually helped me guide how I started writing out the program.
Great, thank you for this reflective thought. I'm glad you took these concepts very quickly and be able to apply what you learned in this workshop to revising these your course learning outcomes. Since we are talking about course learning outcomes, I would like to remind you to the issues that I have previously pointed out. Can you see the email here?
Yep.
Okay. So it looks like you're going to keep the third one.
Yes. Yes. And so the reason that I wanted to keep the third one is being able to discuss African American cinema and politics, and this is, I guess this is my opinion on it, right? Just an experience, but being able to have a discussion and really being able to assess that relationship feels like two very different things. Like being able to really get in and evaluate versus having a discussion, because a lot of times the discussions are what lead to some of that evaluation and understanding. Does that make sense?
What about
or am I off on my thoughts there?
Instead of discuss, what about measure? And then the way that you can measure it is through a discussion. I see measure here as evaluating. You want to look at the impact, right? You want to talk with the students, and you want the students to talk with each other about the impact. But I feel like impacts can be measured.
To measure the impact to this, because I think that there are two levels. discuss is like at the lower level,
Mhm.
right? Because students just to understand it, so they'll be able to show their opinion towards the impact, right? What I think. However, if to measure the impact, then that may include skills such as using a tool to measure. So are students provided with the tool? Are students taught to how to use the tool to measure?
Well, I feel like you don't need a tool. You could just say that, this, if we're talking about, African American cinema, you can see that when this type of movie came out, this is the box office return. This is this type of movie came out, and then
Evaluate
the
impact,
rest of them. Yeah.
right?
Evaluate,
After
but
understanding.
I feel like measure is more like, you can kind of look at and see statistically, like if you're looking at box office
So
and
you need a tool to measure if you want to.
yeah, so like box office returns. You would look at the movie and you would see, okay, this is how much money this movie made, and then you could also look at the influence that it has on different genres and then different movies within the
Yeah.
African American cinema.
And
So
so,
it goes back to Darwin.
and so the thing with that, right? And I get what you're saying completely. And the reason I wouldn't use something like that is specifically because of the topic that the course is discussing, right? Having a measurement tool like that would not yield accurate results because historically those numbers aren't accurate to the influence, right? A lot of films in African American film culture aren't box office hits, right? A lot of them don't even make it to the theaters to be box office having.
Right, they were mostly like in the 70s. They were all those the B movies, right?
Right, and so
feature.
although they had huge cultural impact and even huge outside impact, right? They weren't necessarily monetarily successful. And so that would be really hard to do, which is why, and so I mean, going back to why I left it there is a lot of that's going to be through discussion, right? A lot of it's going to be discussing the impact, and through the discussion, I'm hoping that, well, the goal would be for them to be able to further kind of evaluate and assess, okay, so now we're seeing the impact because we're having these discussions going through analyzing the cultural impact or the impact on the country, right? And then would be able to, from those discussions, evaluate or assess that relationship. So that was why I left it in there, because although it sounds similar, they're two very, very different pieces of that learning process.
Right. The different focus, the different outcome.
Good.
All right.
Thank you, Darwin, for contributing and for your time with us.
Yeah, no, this was awesome. This is a great course. I hope it's getting sent out so everybody can watch it, because I think it will be very, very helpful.
That's happening.
Yeah, that's what we planned. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Darwin, and thank you, Carrie, for
Thank you,
the time.
Snowy.
Oh,
For
Thank
giving
you.
the rundown.
I hope I make it clear to everyone.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, then
right.
I'll see you later.
See you guys later. Have a good one.
Yeah, send me the updated course learning outcome, please.
For sure.
Mhm.
All right.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.